Right, we're a little short. I do have two questions for you. Can I go first, Chris?
Yeah, go ahead.
Thanks. No, I don't know whether it's a good idea, so. But my first question, I think I would ask Ivan, when you were talking about using drugs and reasoning, your starting point was an ethical knowledge claim. It is wrong to take drugs. And if that is the premise, then the logical conclusion would be that any drug taking is wrong. Could you find any other arguments that should keep you away from drugs using reasoning? Aren't there any other reasonable arguments, other than ethical arguments?
Even experience, because, like, for example, if you know a friend is taking drugs and in his life he has problems like mentally, or I don't know, a drug, something like this, you know by experience that you should not take drugs.
What other ways are there out there for us to know that drugs are bad for us?
Well, science, for example, because science can identify the drug and tell you what is wrong with the drug and what does that specific drug do to your body, so you know what is going to happen to you, so you can reason out better.
Well, you can reason out that if you take drugs, I mean, that pleasure will last only for 5 minutes, then your life is destroyed, your body is harmed by the drugs.
Well, yeah, absolutely. You could go into like specific consequences. So alcoholism conducts to liver damage.
In other words, through perception, you can see what it does to you, and that's why it's ethically wrong.
I could extend that to emotion, but I won't. I'm just thinking of a famous soccer player from Northern Ireland who played for Manchester United. He was a beautiful, beautiful man, very handsome guy. An incredible football player, but an alcoholic.
Best.
Georgie Best. Thank you, I can remember the name. And George Best died at the age of 47 or 44 of liver cirrhosis. And he wanted to let people know how terrible his plight was. So emotionally, of course, a figure like that embodying the damages that alcohol can lead to is a powerful deterrent towards using drugs or alcohol, which are more or less, they fall in the same category. This one I will skip because there's one observation. What TokOP terms could you be using when you're talking about reason, culture, and ethics? In other words, what are those words in TokOP? What do we consider them to be? What TokOP categories do they fall into?
Which words are you referring to?
Reason is, together with sense perception, language, and emotion, what in TokOP? Way of knowing? Ethics is an area of knowledge.
Oh.
And culture is a linking concept. Okay, so let's use those terms. They're actually, last question, and then I'll hand it over to Fritz. Very interesting, the description of the walkabout was very interesting. And there you're showing an example of culture influencing a way of knowing, such as reason. So reasonably, Australian Aboriginal parents are not worried when they send their young boy out on a walkabout, or maybe they're reasonably worried. I would imagine they have some kind of worry, but culturally it is very important for them to do that. Can you give me examples in which the opposite happens? Reason wins over culture. So something that is culturally okay, at some point, thanks to reason, or as a result of a reasoning process, becomes something that shouldn't be done. Because we are in the field of ethics here, okay? So what is right or what is wrong to do.
Well, for example, in India, small children need to have a bath in the river, like in their famous river. I can't remember.
Ganges.
Yes. And with reason, now they are figuring out that by doing this, the children get very sick because in the river there are a lot of diseases. So with reason,
it would be a perfect example if that would lead to a decrease of the sacred baths in the river Ganges. But I'm not too sure that's happening. So try and pick an example that's closer to us. Think of changes that have occurred in I don't know, the Italian culture, which is close to.
Not Italian, but like Vanity Fair just did not a commercial, but like the cover, the front page of the magazine is with these young girls that are like 12, dressed up in sexy dresses and has all the makeup on, and they have all the makeup on. They're sleazy. They're sleazy. And well, this goes against like our culture because you can't like dress up these little girls and let them like move and let them like act as young as adult women, and so like the government just like banned this magazine, not magazine like cover, but the magazine because it wasn't like appropriate for our population to see, because like it was provocative, and for the other young children or whoever. It sends a wrong message. Like you can have like that when you're 12.
Yes, such
another culture could be maybe for women. Cultures throughout the centuries have considered the woman to be traditional, to stay at home, take care of the kids, take care of the household, be slaves to the men.
Julie, postcard. For 4 hours, please.
No, but remind me in 4 hours.
No. Beg your pardon, Crystal, you were actually on a good path there.
I can't.
Okay, Fritz, please. Thank you. Go on. It was an interesting answer there. Sorry if I interrupted you.
No, I was thinking of the role of women because essentially these women throughout the ages had to be they were property of the men. So they had to do everything they were told. Essentially, they were slaves in a way, or slaves of society. And therefore, throughout the developing of the years, that has changed. Even today, women have rights. We have the same in Italy. They have the same rights as men. We share the same privileges, and that is something that has changed. Reason has succeeded because people have realized that it is unfair to discriminate someone for their sex.
Absolutely, through reason, and through reasonable arguments, a cultural trait has changed, and it has changed in many ways and in many different places. So in that case, I would say that the way of knowing reason contributes to make some cultural fact appear different, and therefore culture itself changes. Okay, I'm done. Fritz.
I just had a question on the real life situation. I didn't quite understand it.
Yeah.
What happened on site?
Okay, it happened that she was sentenced to die because her brother had raped her. What happened was that the judges said that it was her crime because in some way she provoked her brother to rape her, and to rape her, and therefore it was her fault that such a crime ever occurred. And because they did not want to blame the men, as the men are the basis of society in most parts of the Middle East, and therefore basically it's the woman to pay for his sins.
Okay, and then there was another point which I just wanted to refer to. You said something about penalties in Europe and how we...
But not in Europe, in Europe.
Yeah, but you said that we try to prevent pain in these penalties. I was wondering if...
It's
if
a
you
contrast
give examples.
because there is physical pain, well, not other than the fact that you are dying. There's actual suffering when you are stoned to death, but however that usually doesn't happen. People try to prevent physical pain when like in the States there is a death penalty, but I think it's by the electric shock. Electric chair, which the person dies in an instant, it doesn't slowly and painfully go through the process.
Yeah.
More questions?
Okay, thank you.
Crystal, electric chair.